Let's look at decimal places and how we use them to round numbers. So the first thing to note is that we start counting decimal places from the right of the decimal point. So for example, if we have the number 12.567238, then the first decimal place is the first digit to the right of the decimal point. So in this number, the first decimal place is the 5 here. So we can label that as first decimal place, DP for short. If we look at the next digit after that, we've got the 6. That is the second decimal place. And then the third decimal place is the 7. The fourth decimal place is the 2. The fifth decimal place is the 3. The sixth decimal place is the 8, and so on. So this carries on up until the last digit. So in this case, 12.567238 is a number up to 6 decimal places, since there's 6 digits after the decimal point to the right. When rounding to decimal places, we use this convention. So look at the decimal place after the one you are trying to round to, and then do the following. If the digit is 5 or more, round up. If the digit is less than 5, round down. So looking at some examples, let's say we want to round the following numbers to 1 decimal place. So let's start with 2.37. Then if we're trying to round to 1 decimal place, we need to look at the decimal place after the one we're trying to round to. So that's going to be the second decimal place. And now we need to determine whether this digit, the 7, is 5 or more or less than 5. 7 is 5 or more, and so we need to round up, and so this becomes 2.4, since we add 1 to the first decimal place. That will result in this rounding up. So 2.37 becomes 2.4. If we look at another example, so 2.35, then again we're trying to round this to 1 decimal place, so we look at the decimal place after the one we're trying to round to, so that's the second decimal place. We've got a 5 there. 5 is 5 itself, and so we need to round up. So we add 1 to the first decimal place, and so 3 plus 1 becomes 4, and we get that 2.35 rounds up to 2.4. If we look at one last example, so 2.33, then again we're trying to round this to 1 decimal place. We look at the decimal place after the one we're trying to round to, so that's the second decimal place, and that's the 3. 3 is less than 5, and so we round down. So what happens is 2.33 becomes 2.3. That results in this number being rounded down. And so the value of the first decimal place doesn't change. We keep it as it is, and we get rid of the numbers after the first decimal place. Let's look at a few more examples. So we're going to round 13.5267 to 1 decimal place first. So we look at the second decimal place, which is the 2, and now since 2 is less than 5, we need to round this number down, and so to 1 decimal place this becomes 13.5. So after the first decimal place we ignore the numbers on the right. Now let's round 13.5267 to 2 decimal places. So since we're trying to round to 2 decimal places, we need to look at the digit in the third decimal place, so that's 6. And now since 6 is 5 or more, we round up. So we add 1 to the previous decimal place, that's the 2. And so this number to 2 decimal places is 13.53. Let's round this number to 3 decimal places. So if we're trying to round 13.5267 to 3 decimal places, we need to look at the fourth decimal place, which is the 7. Since 7 is 5 or more, we round up. So we add 1 to the previous decimal place, that's the 6. And so this becomes 13.527. The next number is 2.31. So to 1 decimal place, we look at the second decimal place, which is the 1. Since 1 is less than 5, we round down, and so this number becomes 2.3. If we're trying to round this to 2 decimal places, we look at the third decimal place. There is no number here, so we can just add on a 0. That doesn't change the value of this number. And so since 0 is less than 5, we round down. So to 2 decimal places, this number is 2.31. If we're trying to round to 3 decimal places, we do the following. So again, we've got the first decimal place, which is a 3, the second decimal place, which is a 1, the third decimal place, which is nothing, but we've added on a 0. That doesn't change the value of this. It's still the same as 2.31. And so we need to look at the fourth decimal place if we're rounding to 3 decimal places. There is no number in the fourth decimal place, so we add on a 0. And now, since 0 is less than 5, we round down. So to 3 decimal places, 2.31 is equal to 2.310. Final example is 0.2999. So to 1 decimal place, we need to look at the second decimal place. That digit is the 9. Since 9 is 5 or more, we need to round up. So we add 1 to the previous decimal place, which is the 2, and so this becomes 0.3 to 1 decimal place. Now to 2 decimal places, we look at the third decimal place, which is the 9 here. So the 9 is 5 or more, and so we round up, which means we add 1 to the previous decimal place. If we add 1 to this 9, this will become 10. And so since we've got 10, we can write that by adding 1 to the previous decimal place, making that a 3, and then writing a 0 next to it. So 0.2999 to 2 decimal places is equal to 0.30. If we round 0.2999 to 3 decimal places, we need to look at the fourth decimal place. So the fourth decimal place is the 9 here. 9 is 5 or more, and so we round up. That means we need to add 1 to the previous decimal place, which makes this a 10. Since we've got a 10 here, we would then need to carry the 1 over to the previous decimal place and write a 0. So I'll show you that in steps. So this would become 0.29, and so we'd write a 0 here and we'd carry the 1 over. So plus 1 to the 9, that would become 10. So again, we write a 0 here, carry the 1 over. So that would become 0. So adding 1 to 2 becomes 3. The 9 here becomes 0, and then we write the 0 in the end. And so to 3 decimal places, 0.2999 is equal to 0.300. So our answer is 0.300.